So recently, Venerable Chodron taught about the three types of dependent arising, and this is used as a reasoning to establish the emptiness of inherent existence or objective existence. And so the first one is all things, all phenomena, all conditioned phenomena are dependent on their causes and conditions. All phenomena are dependent on their parts, and all phenomena are dependent on being conceived and labeled by the mind. And so specifically, I've been thinking about parts, how things are dependent on parts, and I've thought about this in different ways. And we can kind of ask the question, it's like, so what? Of course things are dependent on their parts. During the class, we talked about the IKEA desk or table being dependent on its parts, and you just get a bunch of parts when you order a table from IKEA. So what's the big deal? It's a big deal when we turn the analysis to ourselves, that we are made of parts, that we're not this whole, solid, fixed identity, but we are this constantly changing constellation and collection of parts, of physical parts, of mental parts. We're just a bunch of parts. But we often don't feel like that. And so also recently during the noonday retreat, I was finishing the commentary on the Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life called The Great Home by Minyak Kunsang Sonam. And I was working through the chapter 8, which the last part of chapter 8 talks about the method to generate bodhicitta, of equalizing and exchanging self and others. So you might know where I'm going with this. So Shantideva uses this idea about parts to establish that we are equal to all sentient beings. And so Shantideva says, the hand and other limbs are many and distinct, but all are one, the body to be kept and guarded. Likewise, different beings in their joys and sorrows are, like me, all one in wanting happiness. And so what he's getting us to look at is how we cling to our body as one indivisible whole, right? We say it's my body. We think it's this singular thing. But actually, as we've learned over and over again, our body is made of parts. And so also, there is the whole, you could say, of all sentient beings, right? There's a group, any group, but right now we're talking about all sentient beings, and all sentient beings has parts, and we are included as one of those parts. And so the idea is that, well, since we protect our own body, which is nothing but a bunch of parts, thus we should protect all sentient beings, right? Because that is a whole, and there are parts of that whole. And so even though sentient beings have very different experiences right now, even just looking at humans, people are experiencing great pleasure, spending money left, right, and center, getting everything they want, and other beings can't find enough food to eat or water to drink and are in a war-torn country. But how we are similar is that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. So why can't we then think about the whole of sentient beings and protect all the parts equally? And so later on in these verses by Shantideva, he then talks about not only physical parts, but mental parts, that there is a continuity of consciousness. And so we may say, oh, but I don't feel the pain of another sentient being, right? That's different. But then Shantideva says, well, actually, you don't feel the pain of your future rebirth, do you, right now? Do we feel the experience that we will have in the future? No. And yet, at least as spiritual practitioners, we're concerned about that. We're concerned about that experience that this our I, will have in the future. So Shantideva is saying, well, okay, so there's different parts. You're not experiencing that now, right? But you still protect it. So likewise, we can protect other beings. We're not experiencing their pain. But just like us, they're grasping on to these collections of parts or series of moments of conscious experience, and they're clinging to that as my I, right? We cling, in the past I experienced such and such. We just learned about recollecting our past lives and how we've experienced countless things in samsara. And so we could say that's all our I, right? We had this experience in the past, we'll have this experience in the future. So why not protect all other beings just like us? And so then if we think about, okay, what is the purpose of this? What are we trying to get at? And why would we do it? We have to really understand, what's the purpose? Well, we can see very clearly that clinging on to this tiny little piece of the whole causes problems. We see this all over the place. We cling to our group, our race, our nationality, very narrow, and yet there are so many benefits when it comes to expanding that identification. Like if we go from just thinking about my family to thinking about my group or my country or all humans, humankind, mankind, we just keep extending out, we see that it's actually much more beneficial to expand our awareness. And it's most beneficial to expand our awareness to include all sentient beings, right? Even those we don't see. And so in this commentary, there was a phrase that really caught my attention. I'll just read the context. So he says, "Nevertheless, through grasping them as myself, I maintain them to be my sentient beings, as all a singularity of sentient beings to protect." That just struck me. My sentient beings. So there's a lot of things that I consider mine. My body, my family, right? My job, my responsibility. It goes on and on. But my sentient beings, wow, that's a totally different perspective. I don't attach mine to sentient beings. And I was thinking, okay, well, how do I relate to those objects that I consider mine? Well, in terms of my body, I care about it. I protect it from harm. When it comes to my job, my task, my responsibility, well, I feel responsible for it. Maybe there's, those who own land feel like they can control that land. Or if you have children, you want to take care of your children, you cherish your children. Or if it's a material object, when we say like my car, my iPad, that typically means we own it, right? So there's all these different connotations I was thinking about. Well, what does it mean when we say mine? How does this relate? So it's true, I think we can all agree, we don't own other sentient beings, and we definitely don't control them. But we can think about this in the other kinds of connotations for mine. We take responsibility for their welfare. Actually, when we recite the Bodhisattva or the Bodhicitta prayer, many of us have taken the Bodhisattva vow. We're taking responsibility for all sentient beings. So in that way, we could say it's quite appropriate to consider them as my sentient beings. And also, we want to protect them, take care of them, focus on them, love them, right? And so then if we turn it around and think, well, the things that I do cling to that are mine, right? Like my body. Well, do I even control that? I don't control my body. My body looks the way it looks. It does what it does. You know, it gets injured, it gets sick, all without control. I don't control this body. I don't know if I really own it, because at a certain point, it's going to check out and leave me. You know, if we own something, it doesn't just take off without us giving it permission to do so. But the body does just take off without us giving it permission to do so. And so if we look at these things that we own or that are mine, we don't really control them, right? And so in that way, I was just thinking, well, I can actually get behind this idea of my sentient beings. And just the little bit that I've done this, it's amazing when you put the word my or mine next to anything, we know that there's this huge interest in it. Wish to protect it. I mean, it really becomes important in our mind. And so when I've, in town thinking about my sentient being, as someone's driving by me or, walking past me, there's this feeling like, oh, mine. It's like I'm extending, I have self-grasping ignorance, so why not extend it? Why not extend that grasping, which is what some commentaries are saying, to include all sentient beings, right? We know if we extend that grasping just a little bit, we have problems, right? Don't hurt my family, don't, harm my country. But if we extend it out to all beings equally, that's quite a virtuous thought and mental state, and that brings benefit to others. And so I just wanted to share this, what Kunzang Pelden says in the Nectar of Manjushri's speech. This is another commentary. And he says, there's this qualm, like, it will take a really long time to habituate my mind to thinking about all others as mine, or as me, even. And he says, actually, no, it doesn't take that long. We can switch our orientation to something quite quickly. And he gives the analogy of buying a horse, right? So before you buy the horse, you don't really care if it's malnourished, or, hopefully you do, but, you don't care that much if there's a problem, if it has a broken leg. But as soon as it's your horse, right, that's my horse, I want it to be healthy, I want it to perform the function of, I don't know whether I'm riding it or whatever I'm using the horse for, I want it to perform that function and do that. And I care a lot about it as soon as it's mine, as soon as that transaction takes place. So like a more contemporary example is buying a car, right? The car is in the car lot. Who cares if it gets dinged, gets scratched? I don't care. Too bad for the car salesman, but it doesn't affect me. But as soon as I buy it and I take it home, maybe it's parked on the street, and a trash truck backs into it, which happened to me in Spokane, I care a lot about it. Uh-oh, did I just... Just blew out the microphone. Okay, I care a lot about it. So he's saying that actually we can do this if we apply ourselves to it and we just make that shift. We think, this is mine. You know, we do that in a very afflicted way, so why not do it in a virtuous way? You are mine. I take you as my own. I take responsibility for your welfare, right? So actually, it does matter. You know, parts and wholes, you know, which part is in which whole, it does matter. And it can not only help us to understand the ultimate reality, but if I use my ignorance in a skillful way, then hopefully I can expand my perspective and my care to include more than just this very small collection of